Good evening, Facebook family. I'm going to give you all a few minutes to log in. And tonight's topic is going to be how to complete your financial affidavit. So my name is Michelle Lebron, and I am an attorney in Florida and New York. However, I practice primarily in Florida, and tonight's discussion will be about how to complete your financial affidavit in your domestic relations case, okay? So any case that's filed for dissolution of marriage or paternity or child support or modification, you must complete a financial affidavit pursuant to Florida statutes. Lots of people who come to see me panic when they see this affidavit because makes them think about their finances. The affidavit is good for two things. First of all, we need to disclose to the court what your income and liabilities are. Secondly, which is probably an unintended consequence, it forces you to take a look at your spending habits. Quite often we see that people have a deficit at the end of the affidavit because they are spending much more than they are bringing in. So that's an unintended consequence, but a good idea for you to take a look at and see exactly what you are spending. So what I'd like to do today is hopefully try to share my screen with you. Let's see if that works. And let you see the actual financial affidavit. Oh, here we go. Awesome, it's working. So the financial affidavit starts off with the caption up at the top. And hey, Jesse, I'm glad you're on. So we're going to start with the top of the financial affidavit where it asks for the circuit court. If you're in Orange or Osceola, that would be the 9th Judicial Circuit. And then you put in the county that you're in. You're going to input your case number there and the division of the court if you know it. If you don't know it and you're my client, I'll be happy to let you know what it is. You'll fill in the name of the petitioner and the name of the respondent. And then going down, you need to be able to fill in your name, your occupation, the name and address of your employer, and your pay rate. Be very careful in selecting whether you're inputting the monthly amount, weekly, biweekly. Preferably, I prefer that you input your monthly gross income on that line. If you are unemployed, you need to check the box and include a separate sheet of paper and explain your efforts to find employment. Now, moving down to section 1, you need to fill in your gross income. Now, the Florida statutes define what constitutes income for purposes of calculating child support, and it's pretty much everything. So on line 1, if you work for an employer and you receive wages, you're going to input your gross monthly wages on line 1. Bonuses and commissions, overtime, tips, anything like that is also income. So you would list that separately on line 2. Business income from sources such as self-employment. So if you're self-employed, then you're probably obviously in business for yourself and not receiving wages from someone else. In this case, you get to deduct your business expenses from your income, from the gross income, and whatever's left over would be the income that you impute to yourself. And so that would go on line 3. You do need to include a separate sheet of paper itemizing the expenses that you're declaring as business expenses. If you receive monthly disability, SSI, or anything like that, that is also income, and that will go on line 4. Workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, pension, retirement, or annuity payments, Social Security benefits, If you receive alimony from this case, the case that you're in, or from any other case, you would have to list that as well. If you're receiving monthly interest and dividends from investments, that's counted as income, and that would need to be included as well on line 10. If you have rental property and you're receiving positive cash flow from your rental property, you need to disclose that on line 11. You also need to include a separate sheet of paper itemizing the gross income from the property and the expenses, the monthly expenses on the property. Going on, monthly income from royalties, trusts, or estates, reimbursed expenses, and in-kind payments to the extent that they reduce your living expenses. So if you have a job where you are reimbursed for tolls or mileage or anything like that, that counts as an in-kind payment, and that would have to be included on your financial affidavit on line 14. And if you have any other income of a recurring nature from any other source, this would also include recurring gifts. So if you have a family member who pays your cell phone bill every month, and it's been that way for a long time, and it's anticipated to continue to be that way, then you need to include that gift income on line 15. The second section talks about your present monthly deductions for taxes. So there are certain deductions under the statute that you can take, and that would be obviously your FICA and your Social Security and Medicare payments are going to go on that line. If you have mandatory union dues, you can include that. You're entitled to a deduction for that. If you have mandatory retirement payments, I see a lot of folks entering their regular 401k payment on that line, and that may not necessarily be a mandatory retirement payment. Some of the county or state employees do have mandatory retirement payments, but most companies, private companies, do not have mandatory retirement payments. So be very careful that you are inputting that on the correct line. You are entitled to a deduction for your health insurance payments. On this line, you're going to include the health insurance payments for yourself only, not for your children from this relationship for this case, okay? There will be another line on another page for you to document the amount you pay for your children's health insurance. If you are paying, if you have actual monthly court-ordered child support that you pay for children from another relationship, then that amount you are entitled to a deduction for. If you are voluntarily making child support payments to another parent of another child, one of your previous children, you are not entitled to a deduction for that, only if it's court ordered. Okay, so then at this point you would, on that top section, you're gonna total up all of your income, and after your deductions, you'll total up your deductions, you'll do the math, and subtract line 26 from line 17. And on line 27, you will enter your net monthly income. Remember, your child support, and I've discussed this in prior videos, your child support is based on the net monthly income of both parents. So that's the line that that net monthly income is going to come from. Now, on the next page, on page 3, you have to list your monthly expenses, and there's a section for your household expenses. Now, I should note that this financial affidavit is for individuals who have income of under $50,000 gross annual income. There's another form that's called a long form for individuals with income over $50,000, but for purposes of this demonstration, we'll use the short form, and maybe we'll do another video explaining the long form. But for this video, we're going to use the short form, and on page 3 is where you will itemize your monthly expenses. There's a section for your household expenses, mortgage, rent, taxes, property taxes, utilities, your telephone bill, food inside the home, so groceries that you buy inside the home, meals outside the home, repairs and maintenance to your home. And then there's a line for other, in case there's some other expense that's not necessarily stated there. Your automobile, gasoline, repairs, and insurance in section B. Children's expenses, this is where you're going to list the expenses that you have related to the children, daycare expense, and ideally you want to list the monthly amount on these lines. If you don't know the specific dollar amount, you should put a little asterisk and note that it's an estimated amount. So you're going to list in section C your daycare expenses, lunch money, clothing, grooming, gifts for holidays. So I guess technically the gifts for holidays is if you buy gifts for your children from your children for family members and things like that. You can just estimate what that amount would be because it's probably not something you do every month. If your child has uninsured, uncovered medical or dental expenses, this is a line where you want to list that monthly amount. And section D is for the health insurance of your child, and you will list the amount that you pay for the insurance for the children only. Now, bear in mind, some insurance plans have, you might have to call your benefits department to find out what the breakdown is, because they may, the price that you see on your pay stub may be for the entire family. So you might have to call the benefits department and find out how much you pay if it was just the employee, and how much it would be if it was the employee and the spouse. And there's usually a third amount of how much it is for the employee plus children. And so you would need to probably do a little bit of math and figure out what portion is for the children's health insurance, okay? And if you're paying life insurance for the children, you would list it there as well. Section E is the monthly amount that you spend on clothing, your medical and dental uninsured, uncovered medical expenses, grooming, entertainment, gifts, religious organizations. If you make regular tithes to church or some other organization, you can list that there. There's a line for miscellaneous or others. So if you have any other expenses that are not stated there, you would use these blank lines for that. Section F, payments to creditors. Here's where you would list any payments you have for maybe if you have a credit card payments, you might have student loan payments. You can itemize those in section F. So on line 28, you are going to add up all of your monthly expenses and put the total on line 28. And then beneath line 28 is the summary. So you will take your present monthly net income, and that number is on line 27. You can take that number and put it on line 29, fill it in there. You are going to, on line 30, you're going to list the total of your monthly expenses, okay? And then you need to calculate the difference between the monthly net income and your monthly expenses. If after you pay for everything, there's money left over, you will fill that number in on line 31, and that would be a surplus. If you are spending more than you earn, then you have a deficit, and that needs to be filled in on line 32. Okay. Going on to section 3 is your assets and liabilities. And so there are some specific lines there for cash on hand, cash in banks or credit unions, stocks, bonds, notes, the value of your real estate, the value of your automobile, other personal property, the value of your retirement plan. If you have a profit sharing, pension, IRA, 401k, accounts such as those, you would list the value there, okay, in that first column after the itemized asset. Now, if you are claiming that one of those assets is non-marital, then over on the right-hand side, you would check the box for either husband or wife, whichever party is claiming that the asset is non-marital. Non-marital means that it was purchased prior to the marriage. If it was purchased during the marriage, even if it's titled in only one spouse's name, it's still marital property. Unless it was non-marital property traded in for a new property, but that gets complicated. But if it was purchased during the marriage, most of the time it's considered marital property, and you would just list the fair market value. Section B is your liabilities, and that's where you're going to list all your debt. the mortgage on your property. If you have a second mortgage, you'd list that there as well. The financing on your car would be listed there as well. Let's see, credit card accounts, everything goes on that page. Contingent assets and liabilities, section C. If you are aware that you have that there's a possibility that some income will be coming to you. So for example, if you are entitled to accrued vacation pay or sick leave pay that you haven't used and it's going to be paid out to you, that will be considered a contingent asset. Okay, if you are expecting an inheritance or something of that nature, that would be a contingent asset. If you filed your taxes and are expecting a refund but haven't received the refund yet, that refund is a contingent asset. And the same goes for your contingent liabilities. It's any debt which you believe you should be responsible for that may not yet materialize, but you know that it's coming up and you're going to have that debt, then you would list that under your contingent liability. Section 4 just refers to your child support guidelines worksheet. If there are minor children of this relationship, then we would indicate there whether or not a child support guidelines worksheet will be filed in this case. If there are children, we will be filing a child support guidelines worksheet. So if there are no children, then you would check the box that we're not filing a child support guidelines worksheet. And then this document needs to be signed and notarized. If you are my client, I would prefer that we review it together before you go the extra mile and have it signed and notarized. But we can, so that we can take a look and make sure you've captured all of your expenses. One thing to note is that for purposes of your divorce case, this document is very, very important because you need to be able to itemize all of your income and expenses that you expect to have. For purposes of a child support case, the court is only concerned about your income and any allowable deductions that are usually listed on the first and second page. So that will conclude our talk on the financial affidavit. If you have any questions or would like to have us review your case or assist you in completing a financial affidavit, you can give us a call at the number on the bottom of the screen there. There it is. And we will be happy to help you. Again, my name is Michelle Lebron, and thank you for tuning in. I hope you found this very helpful. Have a good night. Bye-bye.